June 2004. A lone park ranger in a remote part of Grand Canyon National Park awakens to eerie sounds.
She looked outside her tent, and 12 to 15 people were walking up the trail, having mundane conversations. Women with skirts down to the knees, men in suits and ties. They seemed to be dressed in 1950s clothes. She grabbed her coat with one hand and her pistol with the other.
This is National Park: Secrets and Legends. In the desolate southwestern United States, a great divide, the Grand Canyon. This otherworldly crevice cuts over a mile deep into the Arizona desert. In the course of 300 miles, nearly the entire geological history of the Earth stands on display. Some believe that behind this breathtaking natural wonder lies strange, inexplicable power that can lead to disaster and death. 1956. Two planes take off from Los Angeles Airport 3 minutes apart. One is bound for Chicago, the other for Kansas City, and their flight plans put them in separate airspace. 90 minutes later, the two aircraft, who should be miles apart, somehow collide. Why they collide is a total mystery.
128 passengers and crew of two airliners collided. It was the worst commercial air disaster in history.
So people were shocked that two planes would meet together at the same time here at the Grand Canyon. That's a big piece of remote sky back there behind us.
To this day, wreckage and debris still litter the site. The park rangers now call this place Crash Canyon.
The body recovery operation was a nightmare. They hired a specialized Swiss team of climbers to climb up to try to recover some of the remains. They were not able to get all of the bodies out of the canyon.
The crash was so violent, 33 bodies are never recovered. Their remains scattered in the canyon walls.
It was the worst airliner disaster that had occurred in history at the time. There are people who feel that Crash Canyon is haunted by the people who died there in that 1956 tragedy.
The location of the crash is exactly where a park ranger sees mysterious figures. One of the most remote places in the Grand Canyon.
She saw 15 people wearing street clothes, women with skirts down to the knees, men in suits and ties, and they were walking up the trail. Behind them, 6 Native Americans followed and were speaking a language that KJ didn't understand.
The figures the park ranger claims she saw are being led by Native Americans towards a place called the Confluence, where the Little Colorado flows into the Colorado River, which carved the Grand Canyon.
I've hiked down to the Confluence. It's a very treacherous hike. It took me 2 days. It's a beautiful area, very special area, but I'm superstitious of some of the things that you find up the canyon.
The Confluence has been a sacred place for the Hopi and other Native American tribes for thousands of years. For the indigenous peoples, it's one of their holiest sites.
We have to have respect for it. We sort of like going to the Vatican, for example, like going to the Wailing Wall for other people.
For natives and non-natives alike, the Confluence has a strange magnetic attraction. Many are inexplicably drawn to it, as if by a strange, unseen power coming from where the two rivers mix.
When you're in that area of the Grand Canyon, it's a vertical drop of thousands of feet. You think you're at the edge of the world, and that this is going down into some magical place of the gods.
It's sort of like going to a place of worship. We go there for spirituality and especially guidance.
The canyon walls at the Confluence are a sheer drop, almost a mile down, revealing billions of years of the Earth's history. Even if a climber can reach the bottom, survival is all but impossible in the desert heat. Dozens have died trying. Despite the risk, many people have been compelled to explore the mysterious area near the confluence. In 1909, the Phoenix Gazette publishes an article on an explosive discovery not far from the confluence where the two planes went down.
It talked about a gentleman named G.E. Kincaid who claimed he had been coming down the Colorado River prospecting. He was a part-time worker for the Smithsonian, so he always had his eye open for stories that the Smithsonian would be interested in.
1,500 feet above the river, he sees odd stains on the canyon wall.
He parked his boat on the south side of the Colorado River and started to make his way up the cliff face. It's very difficult terrain, and the closer he got, the more dangerous it became.
Kincaid barely manages to complete the climb, but then he claims he makes a shocking discovery, one that can rewrite the history of the Western world. A park ranger's report of ghosts has ominous ties to a deadly plane collision in the Grand Canyon. The planes crashed at a mysterious place called the Confluence, where half a century earlier, a daring explorer named G.E. Kincaid climbs 1,500 treacherous feet to explore strange stains on a canyon wall. What he discovers there takes his breath away. A strange cavern that doesn't appear to be a natural structure. Inside, Kincaid notices chisel marks on the wall, confirming that the cave must be man-made.
The first thing he saw was a long passageway that obviously was manufactured. There are tons of natural caves in Grand Canyon, but this was not one of them, according to Kincaid.
As Kincaid ventures further inside, he is shocked by what he sees. He comes across many more passageways that seem to be heading in all directions. This is a plan of the cavern reconstructed from Kincaid's account. At the end of the tunnel is a huge hub with other tunnels spiraling out from it.
Essentially what he found was what could be the back door for a large underground city complex that he described as being immense, that could have held, in his estimation, up to 50,000 people.
At the end of a long corridor hundreds of feet inside, Kincaid is amazed when he finds a room full of priceless objects.
In this cave, he found copper swords, cups, warriors' weapons. In one room, he found a statue of a Buddha, there in the Grand Canyon.
Kincaid not only finds objects that appear to be from the Orient, he also discovers artifacts that seem to be ancient Egyptian. Could Egyptians have reached North America a distance of 10,000 miles, 3,000 years before Columbus? Further in, Kincaid discovers some mysterious markings that may provide a clue.
Another pretty interesting to me feature that they discovered in there was a writing system.
On closer inspection, Kincaid determines that the symbols appear to be hieroglyphics. Radical as it seems, some historians think it's possible that Egyptians may have sailed across the Atlantic.
Egyptians might have reached Arizona by coming across the Atlantic, going up the Rio Grande River into southern Arizona, and then moving up north that way.
This theory is not impossible. In 1970, Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl builds an exact replica of an Egyptian boat from papyrus. He sails it across the Atlantic using Egyptian technology. And there is also another surprising link between Egypt and North America.
There are a number of words that both sound the same and have the same meanings in the Hopi language and the Egyptian language. For instance, the Hopi word Sohu means star, and the ancient Egyptian word Sahu means the stars of Orion. The Hopi word Tuat means mystical vision or illusion, and the ancient Egyptian word Tuat or Duat refers to the underworld, where you go after you die.
The question is, what happened to the artifacts Kincaid claims he discovered?
According to the Gazette, the Smithsonian Institution sent out an archaeologist whose name was Jordan. And Jordan and Kincaid then began exploring these caves.
There are stories and rumors that an expedition was mounted after the discovery, and in one version, 109 truckloads of artifacts were actually removed with very great difficulty from the cavern system.
According to reports, the contents of the cave are sent to Washington, but they mysteriously vanish from the historical record. To this day, the Smithsonian denies they have objects from a Grand Canyon cave.
Essentially, this is the last we ever heard of the cave in the Grand Canyon.
Over a century has passed, and no one else has found Kincaid's cave.
Kincaid actually reached the cave from the Colorado River himself, climbing up. Today, this would be virtually impossible to go this way, simply because the Grand Canyon is so tightly controlled.
Grand Canyon is extremely well monitored by the U.S. government, but there are some interesting areas that access is not allowed, even in one spot, Haunted Canyon, where access is even forbidden to most park personnel.
Are these restrictions coincidence or evidence of a cover-up in place for over a century? If the Kincaid Cave is a secret too great for public knowledge, there's another cavern that's even more shocking. Grand Canyon National Park is almost 2,000 square miles of wild beauty. Accusations of a government cover-up of a major archaeological find there suggest this natural wonder may also be supernatural. And the story of another young explorer named Hank Crastman provides even more evidence.
Hank was a student at Northern Arizona University at that time, 1961. Apparently he had spent time with the Hopi Indians, quite a background with Indian folklore, and he had been given the name of someone that wanted to meet him by a Hopi elder of some kind, and the name was given Kopavi.
Kopavi is Hopi and also a student at the university. He tells Crastman that he has been given permission from his elders to take him into a sacred area of the Grand Canyon. The reason why is a mystery.
Kopavi and Hank started out, and Hank had no idea what Kopavi had in store for him. Kopavi said, "It's not permitted for you to see where we're going without the blindfold." As they were going up this trail, very steep, he was really quite terrified. It said it was like an eternity. Kopavi was right next to a sheer rock ledge, and he said, "Hold out your hand." And Hank did so. To his surprise, his hand went right into the rock. Kopavi and Hank found themselves in a chamber, and there were doors all around the periphery of the room with different kinds of symbols on them that he couldn't recognize. Kopavi walked up to one of the doors, put his hand directly over one of the symbols, and the door silently opened up. As they entered the next chamber, it was what Kopavi said was a purification area. Any kind of debris or pollution from the upper world was removed, including their mental state.
Crastman believes Kopavi has led him to a portal to another dimension, hidden in the depths of the Grand Canyon. He describes a technologically advanced city with flying machines and transparent floating bubbles carrying people through the air. When Crastman returns to the outer world with Kopavi, he vows he will revisit this magnificent portal again.
As Hank said, he says, and that's really the end of the story. He said, "I never saw him again."
Over the years, Crastman returns several times alone, hoping to find the cave again, but fails. He dies in 2010, to his last day dreaming to see the hidden city one final time. Is there a link between Craftsman's futuristic hidden city and the previous discovery of Egyptian artifacts also hidden in the Grand Canyon? Some claim that the answer may lie in the geology of the canyon itself.
One of the unique aspects of the Grand Canyon is called metamorphic rock.
James Tipton is an engineer and geologist.
As rock gets deeper and deeper into the earth, the heat, the pressure, the weight transforms it molecularly. Metamorphic rock is a rock that is so compressed, so refined that its very molecular structure changes and it exudes an electromagnetic field.
Some researchers believe that the confluence, where the Grand Canyon's two rivers meet, is a powerful geological area.
You are in a much deeper section of the canyon where you have a very strong electromagnetic energy. All of these frequential cocktails blend together to form the perfect storm.
That perfect storm may have been the cause of two commercial planes colliding over the canyon in 1956.
There are gravitational anomalies. There are magnetic anomalies that could easily have affected the instrumentation of the airplanes.
What could have led to the spirit seen by a park ranger half a century later?
When you have a high quartz content, it becomes like a film. And when there are powerful events in history, the matrix of that rock would be such that the emotional trauma these people felt when they passed over and went into a different dimension could have easily been recorded.
For the Grand Canyon's native peoples, these strange phenomena are part of the canyon's ancient spiritual power and its greatest secret.
There are unknown energies, unknown forces that have been there since the beginning of time.
At the confluence of the Grand Canyon's two rivers, a park ranger claims to see spirits from a deadly air crash. An explorer finds a cave full of artifacts from the other side of the world. And a young student says he discovers a portal to a futuristic metropolis.
There are unknown energies, unknown forces that have been there since the beginning of time.
For the Pueblo people, who have lived here for more than 3,000 years, the confluence is also a sacred site with a rock formation they consider to be their birthplace. They call it the Sipapu.
The Sipapu is actually a limestone dome built up by layers and layers of mineral water. And this is the place where the Hopi and the Zuni and the rest of the Pueblo people came up out of the earth.
Before we even go to the canyon, we have to go through some type of a preparation. Whether it's a fasting, whether it's a ritual, it's like returning to a place where we meet our spirit people, and we have to have respect for it.
Most all park rangers and Grand Canyon locals are superstitious of the Sipapu. And I've known people who have gone there that have been struck by lightning. They've got violently ill. Helicopter pilots also are suspicious of it. They won't look down at it when they fly over.
Ancient legends say that the Sipapu is also a gateway to another world, a world inhabited by another race.
The Pueblo people have this idea of ant people. They're half human, half insect. They have spindly legs. They have large bulbous heads. They have large eyes, and they have antennae.
Hopi legend says the ant people took them underground and saved them from natural disasters such as earthquakes or floods. Did a technologically advanced race settle in the Grand Canyon in ancient times and protect the local tribes from annihilation? Some believe this could explain Hank Craftsman's account of a portal to another dimension, and explore G.E. Kincaid's discovery of a cave filled with ancient artifacts.
Kincaid's cave could be the physical manifestation of this legendary underworld that the Hopis have talked about deep in the earth.
Could the Sipapu also be where native elders were taking the spirits from a plane crash that a park ranger saw in 2004, so they could finally rest in peace?
The Native Americans were part of some sort of spiritual cleanse of the bad history that occurred at that area.
The mysterious legend of the Ant People may be the greatest of the Grand Canyon's many astounding secrets, a legend of alien saviors perceived as gods.
I think that there is truth there. I think that there is some sort of history there that they are remembering.
I think that these caverns absolutely exist. Are they visible to everyone? Probably not.
There are secrets in the Grand Canyon about the Grand Canyon that a lot of people have not really disclosed.